The Colombo Grand Mosque stands tall, imposing and packed with rich history. In 1827, an Arabic inscribed tombstone was discovered dating to 949 AD, which means the mosque may well be over 1,100 years old and Sri Lanka's oldest. While the mosque has been through a couple of rebuilds throughout history, its most recent redesign was in 1966, led by the non-Muslim father and son architect duo S.H. Peris and Ananda Peris. Talk about unity in diversity. Our partners are the best. Here's a big thank you to Skills for Inclusive Growth and Australian Aid, Srilanka Life, CDB and The Morning Newspaper. And if you like Kaleidoscope, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
Did you know you can open a digital fixed deposit with just 5,000 rupees? Open a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit today. CDB, your friend.
In a quick look at the week that was on CDB Snapshot, Sri Lanka's imports declined 15.8%, dropping to $1.28 billion in September from August's $1.48 billion. September's merchandise trade account balance improved. It's now at a deficit of $206 million compared to $492 million in September 2021. Korea invests $1.2 million in a bid to strengthen Sri Lanka's shrimp aquaculture. Srilanka Life, which upholds education as a priority, held 7 seminars across the country for more than 1,800 Year 5 scholarship exam hopefuls. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies plunged by 15% to a new yearly low this week. People magazine names American actor Chris Evans the sexiest man alive.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome, this is our Srilanka Life News Capsule. We begin with our fortnightly feature with scientist, conservationist and public policy advocate Rohan Pethiagoda on the Pethiagoda pages. Always candid and thought-provoking in his opinions, today he examples why academics may not be the best for leadership and the debate on the employability of graduates. Rohan, in a recent convocation speech, you inferred that Sri Lanka has had no elected president who has a degree and that our parliament also has a dearth of degrees. But do you really think that academics will bring in that dose of common sense that Sri Lanka needs in its leadership?
I was being a little mischievous there. But the fact is that no Sri Lankan head of state since Sir Henry Monk Mason Moore in 1948 has had a university degree. 3/4 of a century, 9 heads of state until Ranil Wickremesinghe. The fact is, I'm not a great fan of academics getting involved in public policy because they are academics. If they've also got other skills, critical thinking skills, they'd be useful to have in public policy. Our entire national predicament, if you think about it, is the result of academics making a mess of things. Dr. Anuruddha Padeniya and agriculture policy. Professor W.D. Lakshman and money printing. He printed money as if there was no tomorrow. Professor Channa Jayasumana and the Dhammika Paniya. Professor Priyantha Yapa and the forced burial of COVID victims. Do you want me to go on? Of course, there are academics who've done less harm. Think G.L. Peris or Tissa Vitarana, but they've hardly been balls of fire in government. So give me common sense and critical thinking skills over academic qualifications any day.
Now, you spoke about critical thinking. There has been much debate on the employability of our graduates and the lack of common sense and critical thinking when they go out to work. What's your take?
But Sri Lankan universities produce excellent graduates in the so-called STEM subjects, in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, medicine, and so on. The degrees they get here in our universities as good as foundation degrees anywhere in the world. And the students are the same quality. I dealt with students here and overseas, and I see virtually no difference. And that is despite most of our youngsters having had to learn English in order to follow their degree courses. That's a tough ask, because they come and have to learn effectively a foreign language to follow their degrees. These are people who work very well in any environment. So they're very employable if they're motivated properly. I hear the quality of law graduates is also very high, but the problem is largely in the non-professional arts. Finding jobs for arts graduates outside of government is next to impossible. No one needs to hire them because they don't bring skills that are useful in the workplace. The bottom line is that we're looking at a major unemployment crisis for graduates in the coming years.
And now for a look at our markets.
At the Colombo stock market this week, the All Share Price Index was down by 1.87%, with the average daily turnover registering a paltry 1.27 billion rupees. WTI oil prices dropped to $85.60 per barrel after US crude stockpiles unexpectedly rose and news of an increase in COVID-19 cases in China drove demand down. Gold prices remained steady at $1,705 per ounce as the US dollar weakened slightly this week.
Dr. Dilesha Pereira is the first Sri Lankan to be named Asia's top outstanding woman marketer for 2022 by the Asia Marketing Federation. Co-founder and chairperson of Lovely Binte and Dilshan, Dr. Pereira works to empower micro women entrepreneurs and has created 200 employment opportunities across economically disadvantaged communities.
Very briefly, what exactly is social entrepreneurship?
In my opinion, social entrepreneurship is a for-profit business model that create an impact, positive impact in the society, in their community or in the world.
How do you think Sri Lanka can actually use micro and SME entrepreneurs? What are the ingredients we need to foster that entrepreneurship and get that contribution into the economy?
We need to foster entrepreneurship friendly culture in Sri Lanka, then promote entrepreneurship through schools, through university level, for students to become entrepreneurs rather than depending on public and private sector job opportunities. Secondly, we need one-stop place where SMEs can get guidance and information from various other organizations currently who are supportive. However, having a one place will accelerate the growth of the SME. Thirdly, we need to promote women entrepreneurship. That is the need of the hour.
A 670-meter tunnel built more than a century ago under the Niagara Falls is now open to visitors. It is truly an engineering marvel created to harness electricity from the fast-flowing waters. Up next is S4IG Let's Talk, and we take a look at World Karting Championship silver medalist Yevan Daniel.
He is just 15 and made history last week. He is the first Sri Lankan to win a medal at a World Karting Championship. Yevan David now becomes the world's number 2, having competed with 29 racers representing 29 countries at the FIA Motorsport Games with not just a silver medal but also a podium finish. Yevan, who lives in Singapore, has been on the track since he was 6. Nevertheless, he has always represented Sri Lanka, recording victories on the European circuit. Yevan joins me on S4IG Let's Talk today from France, just after he finished that very memorable race. Congratulations, Yevan, and what a feat! What did it feel like carrying that Sri Lankan flag on the podium and knowing that you're the first Sri Lankan to win a medal at a World Karting Championship?
Well, for the past 2 years, I've been representing the Sri Lankan flag in Europe, and it's been a long journey, and especially this year, it's been very up and down. I've come close a couple of times to getting the Sri Lankan flag on the podium, and it hasn't worked out on various occasions. And coming into this weekend, everyone knew it was my final weekend of the year, final race of the year in Europe. And one guy said to me that he'd love to see the Sri Lankan flag on the podium. And I just felt like this motivation and this determination to finally try and get that Sri Lankan flag on the podium. And how it all worked out in the end was just such a good feeling of relief and satisfaction.
So you mentioned that it has been a difficult year. What has been challenging through the year?
A lot of bad luck in terms of mechanical failures during the year, where I could have been in contention to have a good race, or even, for example, the World Championship in Italy, which was a month ago. We were looking pretty fast and stuff, and then out of nowhere, my tire blew up. So unfortunate things like this has happened throughout the year, but in the end, it all paid off because it was this race that counted, and it was the last race of the year, and it finally worked out.
And what has been the most challenging for you in your career when you look at the overall picture?
When you have a bad race or something goes wrong, it can be really difficult to bounce back and get the right confidence, mainly again, to go back at it and try and do your best. So you just have to gather all that anger and frustration and turn it into a positive energy that you can use on the track. So one of the biggest challenges for sure is never giving up.
And what has been your most challenging race?
In terms of challenging aspects during races was probably one race in 2016 where I had a high fever and it was not looking good for me to race. And then it started raining for the race as well. But then, I don't know, I was a 9-year-old kid, but I was able to put my mind to it, drive in the wet conditions with the high fever and finish third in the race. So that one was probably one of the most memorable and most challenging. One because of the fever and because of the wet weather conditions.
So Yevan, you've been doing all this while in Singapore. How do you think this would have panned out if you were in Sri Lanka instead?
I think it would have panned out very differently. I can't imagine how it would be. But the reason is because in Singapore, when I started racing in 2015, there was quite a big championship in terms of Asia terms. So it was quite a big championship in Asia at the time. And that kind of elevated me to go into Europe races, which is where I am now. But I think if I started in Sri Lanka without those championships, it would have taken more time and it would have been more difficult to get there. And I think at one point I would have still made it to this stage. It just would have taken a bit more time.
So would you make motorsports your career?
Yes, I think I've come this far now. I've been racing for 8 years now since I was 7 years old. So I'd say this is what I want to do, and this is one of the things I wanted to do since I was six years old. So I don't see any reason why I would not keep going, because I would really do anything I can to get to Formula One, and I'm just really happy to do what I love. I'm glad I have this opportunity.
So good luck, Yevan, and may your dreams of continuing on this circuit become reality.
Amanda Pereira, founder of Her Salon, has a passion for fashion and for crafting customized shoes. In 2018, she handcrafted a pair of wedding shoes, and since then, she's been making modern-day Cinderellas feel like princesses. Here she is on Life in 60.
It all started when my cousin decided to get married in 2018 and wanted to customize shoes for her retinue, since they were all taller than her, and that's when we went all over the place looking to see if there was anyone who could do that for us, but we had no luck, and that's how Her Salon came into play. So we are different. Her Salon is different to other companies in 3 different ways. The first thing is the way we take our measurements. We don't just take the random shoe sizes. We measure people's feet and make the shoe exactly according to their measurements. We also offer a fit-on before completing the shoe. And the third most important thing is we also make medical shoes. We're planning to expand our sales channels by launching a website and by opening up a physical store to provide a better experience for our customers.
So until next Friday, take a breather, especially if you've been working quite hard this week.